Vinton County sits atop the TVC Ohio for the second straight year.
Meigs adds another 1,000-point score to their storied history books, and a familiar face has brought the Nelsonville York girls back to the top.
Hardwood Heroes starts right now! Week 4 of Hardwood Heroes is here. The weather is getting warmer, so that can only mean one thing: playoffs. I'm Bryce Simpson.
And I'm Haley Hollander. And Bryce, playoff play is right around the corner, so let's go ahead and take a look.
Starting in Division 2, Region 7, we see Athens matching up with Hillsborough in a 16v17 playing game. Winner gets a shot to upset number 1 seed Washington Courthouse.
And TVC Ohio champions Vinton County takes on 16-6 Warren in their first round game. After a solid regular season, Alexander takes on a very good Gallia Academy team.
Moving down to Division 3, Nelsonville York gets a home game in the play-in as they welcome conference foe Wellston. Buckeyes swept that season's series, and the winner gets to take on Fairland or Huntington.
Meigs makes the Hour 20 trip to Chesapeake for their play-in game, and that should be a very winnable game for the Marauders. Should they win, they'll likely get matched up with Wheelersburg.
Division 4, Region 15 is jam-packed. Eastern gets a conference rematch in their play-in against South Gallia. They split that season series. Now the Trimble Tomcats go on the road, attempting to defeat Beaver Eastern.
Waterford has a 2.5-hour trip on their hands as they look to beat Western. The two-seeded Lancers will get the winner of Manchester and Southern. But before we see the Lancers in the playoffs, they had to handle business in the Hocking. To help us break that business down is Federal Hocking reporter Reese Thompson.
Thanks, Haley. Federal Hocking got a warm welcome to the Jungle Tuesday night in a brawl against the Marietta Tigers. The second you walked into the gym, it was one of those feelings you knew it was going to be an intense one. The crowd came out eager, rowdy, and it definitely showed on the court.
Reese, those environments are always special and they can encourage intense gameplay. Did the Lancers play off that environment?
Federal Hocking put their all out on the floor, but ultimately, shots just weren't falling for them. Marietta had the advantage in height and used that to out-rebound them. Once the Tigers embodied that next man up mentality in the second quarter, it was a deficit the Lancers couldn't bounce back from.
Reese, you mentioned trouble with shots sinking.
Haley, they just couldn't turn it on. The defense from Marietta helped shut down second chance opportunities. Senior leaders like Tara Cottrell resorted to drive the ball down the court and cross his fingers, he makes a basket. His physicality hauled the Lancers on the free throw line, only missing 1 of 13 shots as he led the team in steals, points, and rebounds. The Tigers ran away with a 70-51 victory and snapped the Lancers' 18-game win streak. On the other hand, the Lady Lancers barely pulled through their tight matchup against the Huntington Huntsmen. This game never really found its footing on the night between missed shots and domination of the glass from both teams caused a slow tempo for the game.
And like you were saying with the boys, that can be a hard habit to break. Were the girls able to overcome it?
This was a back and forth game with multiple lead changes, and the girls were hanging on by a thread going into the final quarter. Takira Walker drove the ball down the court and took advantage of open spots to score. She led with 5 of 6 and 12 points on the night.
Seems like Takira made her presence known on the court, but did her teammates contribute to propel this last-minute win?
No joke, under a minute left in the game, it's 38-36, and the Lancers shot blocking forced Huntington to throw out of bounds. The Lancers held possession until time ran out, and their defense was just enough to sneak away with the win. The girls officially wrapped up their regular season 12-10 overall and 5-7 in conference play. Moving into tournament season, the girls must brush up their shooting and stay locked in.
Reese, hopefully that game can serve as good playoff prep. Great work.
Haley, the Eastern Eagles were also busy this week prepping for the playoffs. To take us through what was going down in Reedsville, he's the Eastern reporter, Donovan Varney.
Thanks, Bryce. The Eagles' nest was packed Tuesday night for what was a senior night thriller. The Tornadoes touched down in Reedsville on the hunt for redemption after a tough overtime loss to the Eagles earlier this season. The first half was riddled with turnovers and misses for both teams. We saw a majority of the Eagles' points fall off of putback layups from offensive rebounds like these. While buckets were few and far between, there was a solid defensive performance from both teams early on. At the beginning of the second half, the Tornadoes took a swift 16-point lead. Not much later, Eastern senior Trey Hill took matters into his own hands, hitting 5 consecutive threes, 4 of which came in the fourth. Later, freshman Colton Lloyd added 3 of his own 3-pointers, and Connor Nolan knocked down this tray ball late in the fourth to help bring the game to just 3. In the end, Eastern's comeback effort wasn't enough. The Eagles' senior night was spoiled at the hands of the Tornadoes and Colton Thomas's 15 points, with a final score of 53-50. The Eagles will be heading over to Crown City to face South Gallia, and this play-in game will be a TVC Hocking rematch that could fall into either team's hands. With that being said, we can confirm that Eastern will be without their senior captain, Jace Bullington. According to his mother, Kara Kite, Bullington broke his hand in the first quarter of their game against Southern last Tuesday night. Bullington is an absolute game changer when he steps on the hardwood. Without him, the Eagles could be in some real trouble.
He sure is, but Donovan, let's switch over to the girls. Who are they slated to play against this week?
The girls are preparing to host their first ever home playoff game over in Reedsville. The Lady Eagles were granted the 5th seed in this year's installation of the playoffs. They finished the regular season with a very proud 14-7 overall record, thanks to Coach Reynolds and his senior leaders. Sydney Reynolds, Erica Durst, and Julie Durst helped lead the charge for Eastern this season and are expected to do the same in the playoffs. They'll be pitted against what seems to be a strangely familiar foe, the Eastern Eagles. Eastern and Reedsville are matched up with Eastern Pike in a game of green versus orange. Wednesday night's Battle of the Eagles will be the first time these two teams hit the hardwood against one another. The girls have waited nearly 2 weeks since their last game and are trying to stay fresh and ready for their next big challenge. The pressure of the playoffs may be creeping in, but Coach Reynolds has been keeping his girls locked in and prepped for their season's survival.
You know, it's tournament time, anything can happen. You know, everybody's record goes to 0-0, so, you know, you try to prepare for that game just you know, like it's any other opponent. You know, you can't go into a game thinking you're going to win. You just got to be prepared to play hard for 32 minutes.
That's right, this playoff game against Eastern Pike is sure to be an exciting one, but only one team will fly high and take the nest on Wednesday night.
Thank you, Donovan. I'm excited to see which team's able to come out on top in that one. Those Eastern girls saw a huge jump this year, but that's a little different than the next team we're going to talk about.
Yeah, Bryce, when you have to replace 4 starters, you're bound to see a drop-off, but they're finding their stride. The Trimble Lady Tomcats had a heated out-of-conference matchup against Chillicothe. This week, to talk about what's going down in Gloucester, we welcome Trimble reporter Dylan Sarko.
Thank you, Haley. This game was the perfect prep for Trimble heading into the playoffs. Last year, this ladies Tomcat team made a deep playoff run, earning themselves a spot in the regional finals. However, to repeat that, there are some aspects of their game that they need to improve in. If the Tomcats controlled their own pace, we could have seen a different outcome. Chillicothe got on the Tomcats early on, throwing a full-court press at them in the first half. The Cavaliers' pressure made the Tomcats play at a quicker pace than they are comfortable playing in.
Being out of control, the tempo isn't easy. Were they able to handle it?
Well, Haley, the Tomcats run a roster of only 7 deep. Chillicothe was able to run out in transition for easy buckets, making Trimble tired and leading them to create uncharacteristic mistakes.
And while they weren't perfect, what bright spots did you see that'll help them come tournament time?
The Tomcats' offense seemed rejuvenated. Sophomore Jaylee Osborne played her part looking like the true point guard she is on the court, shooting the gaps and finding her teammates open looks all game long. Despite the outcome, these ladies stepped up and appeared to be confident. An optimistic sight to see with the tournament approaching. Onto the boys' side, Trimble visited the Belpre Golden Eagles in a nail-biting matchup Friday. Both teams came out the gate with their offense on fire. Tomcat Brandon Burdette found his way early to the rim for this crafty finish off the glass. Just a few short plays later, Burdette finds teammate Cole Wright deep in the paint for the easy floater. Belpre senior Tucker Liston responds going coast to coast, finding Chris Copen down low for the easy bucket. The Golden Eagles came into the second quarter red hot, stringing together a 16-2 run, giving Belpre a 10-point cushion. In the second half, Trimble did not back down. The Tomcats were jumping passes, diving on the court, and running the floor for opportunities like this big and one for Michael Clark. Clark strung together 4 straight buckets in the fourth, helping the Tomcats close this gap. However, thanks to back-to-back threes from Tucker Liston, the Golden Eagles were able to lay this game to rest. Belpre took down the Tomcats by a final score of 51-47. Trimble looks to officially wrap up their regular season next Saturday against Fairfield Christian Academy.
Thanks, Dylan, for all the insight, and we'll be watching as Trimble makes their way into the playoffs. We've talked a lot about the brewing playoff races, but let's not forget about the trying times leading up to them.
Haley, there's a lot of anticipation for these playoffs, and rightly so, but you can't overlook your upcoming opponent. Both Waterford Wildcats squads dealt with that task during this hectic 7-day stretch. To help us break that down, that roller coaster is Waterford reporter Charlie Eulenfeld.
Thanks, Bryce. Waterford girls squad faced a stout defensive unit in the Fort Fry Cadets this week. The first quarter saw the Cadets utilize their defensive prowess to stifle the Wildcats. Waterford could not generate consistent offense with the absence of a three-point game undermining every possession. As the Wildcats entered the second quarter, the tables had completely turned on Fort Fry. Waterford outscored the Cadets 10-1. This period was marked by the physical play of Kendall Surrey, who finished with 11 points and 12 rebounds. The Wildcats entered the locker room ahead 15-13. Fort Fry caught fire out of the gates as the Wildcats were out of sync. With repeated turnovers and foul trouble for star Avery Wagner, the Cadets had a 9-point lead over the Wildcats. Waterford was down but certainly not out. In a furious rally, the Wildcats were down just 2 points with 9 seconds and the ball. However, that final basket fell short and Fort Fry triumphed 32-30.
Although the girls, suffered that narrow defeat, the boys team was struggling a little bit. Were they able to turn it around this week?
Well, Bryce, Waterford boys team stared down a Trimble squad that escaped by the skin of their teeth in their last contest.
So we talked about such a grueling matchup ahead for the Wildcats. How did they approach this game against the physical Tomcat squad?
They matched fire with fire all night long. Despite being a team that has lived and died by the three ball all year long, the Wildcats relied on short field goals and post dominance to get past the Tomcats.
Now, the last time these two teams met, Waterford eked out a 3-point win, but they dominated the Tomcats 60-44 this time. What changed?
Let's just say that Waterford had a chip on their shoulder at Trimble. Chip Adams dominated against Trimble as he finished with 16 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists. He was the driving force underneath that silenced the Tomcat squad, desperate to get a win after dropping 2 straight. This game was vital, proving that Waterford can get it done without the long ball. They now prepare for a crosstown grudge match versus Fort Fry. After next week's rivalry matchup, they will go on the road to claw out a playoff run with first-year head coach DJ Cunningham.
Thank you so much, Charlie. We're definitely going to have to keep an eye on that Waterford boys squad. Now, with that win, Waterford will finish third behind Federal Hocking, who finishes the conference slate unblemished, and Belpre, who is currently riding a 4-game win streak. Trimble's late-season skid has them finishing in the middle of the pack at 4. Southern found success late in the season to give them that 5 spot, and South Gallia and Eastern round us out.
We now move into the Ohio, and what better way to kick it off than the Lady Marauders? Here to break down their heated game against the Lady Lancers is Meigs reporter Alex Michalik.
Thanks, Haley. This girls team is dangerous when they play physical, and that's what they did on Thursday. Not only were they physical, but they were dominant on both sides of the ball.
Alex, the Marauders have struggled as of late, but they broke a 4-game losing streak. What went right for them on Thursday?
Haley, Meigs purely out-hustled the Lancers. Their unique combination of size and skill was too much for Federal Hocking.
And Alex, it was an important night in Pomeroy for another reason.
Important might be an understatement. Meigs senior center Riley Lyle hit the 1,000-point mark, the second player in 3 years with 1,000 points for the Marauders. Even more so, Lyle's feat was 2 years ago to the day when Mallory Hawley etched her name in the record books.
Now, Alex, how do the Marauders use this momentum to carry them into the postseason?
A win only at this stage in the season, but also after a slump, will pay dividends come tournament time. Getting the dynamic duo of Lyle and fellow senior Jennifer Parker cooking once again is just what the team needs.
Alex, the girls were able to get out of their 4-game slump. Did the boys get out of theirs?
Haley, the boys, just like the girls, were able to end their regular season with a win. A loss by 3 the last time these two played meant round 2 would look similar. It's always a good feeling to spoil a senior night, and even better when there's some revenge involved. The Marauders survived a late fourth quarter push from Athens, winning in close fashion 52-45. This game looked to be a rout early, as Meigs held the Bulldogs to only 14 points in the entire first half. Quarters 3 and 4 were a different story. Slowly but surely, Athens chipped away at that Marauders lead, eventually cutting the lead down to only 4. Jeremy Hill's team took care of business when it mattered most, hitting multiple free throws to keep the Bulldogs at bay, and will enter the postseason on a high note. Sophomores Caden Gein and Dustin Vance stole the show Friday night, and the young combo were prevalent on both sides of the court. Vance's 12 rebounds and 9 points, combined with Gein's 17 points, willed those Marauders to victory. This win is great momentum before they take on Chesapeake in the first round.
Thanks, Alex. Nothing is more exciting than the potential that awakens during tournament time, especially for both of these Marauder teams. Both the boys and the girls from Pomeroy are true wildcard teams.
I've got 2 more wildcard teams for you, Haley. They've got both the bark and the bite. Let's make the switch over to the Athens Doghouse to get the latest on the Bulldogs. With that, we bring in Athens lead reporter Morgan Anderson to tell us what went down.
Thanks, Bryce. On Tuesday, we saw a battle as the Bulldogs hit the road to take on the Wellston Rockets, and it was something. It was senior night for the Rockets, and it was poppin'. The Dogs would stride out on a 5-0 run, and Levi Neal would drop this absolute dime to hit the tone quick. After a hasty defensive rebound under the Dogs' glass, Landon Wheatley would find the open shot and snag one beyond the arc. The Dogs kept the Rockets from taking off, literally. By the end of the third, the Bulldogs would lead 45-29, thanks to threes like this one from Sam Traynor. Wellston's 35, Gunnar Harmon, under the glass would sneak this one on in. It just would not be enough. In the fourth, Wellston would have this quick turnover to Wheatley, and he's going to send it back to the net fast and furious. Check this one out as he runs it straight back. With some defensive adjustment in the fourth, the Bulldogs would win this ball game 59-40.
Now, Morgan, earlier in the season, the Bulldogs lost to this Rockets team 38-62. Something had to be missing. What was it?
Absolutely. While the Bulldogs did bring the heat, they were missing their key player on Wellston's side, 6'3" senior guard Cyan Irving, 1,000-point shooter, and holds a school record for 50 points in a single game.
So we know the Bulldogs have struggled to clean the glass this season, but was that a problem in this matchup?
Absolutely not. In fact, these guys must have brought the Windex and paper towels, because that's all they did. Nathan Shattuck said they need to focus on their rebounds, and that's what they did. He was going to claim 10 boards, Mullins with 3, and Levi Neal for 2.
Talk about a cleaning crew, Morgan. Now, how are Coach Kozer and the Dogs prepping for playoffs?
Absolutely. Some Valentine's Day action is going to be cooking up in McAfee as they're going to take on the Logan Chieftains on Tuesday as the Chiefs sit 2-17. But Bryce, nothing says true love more than some hoops on Valentine's Day.
You're absolutely right, Morgan. And I hear there are some rumors about this Athens Lady Bulldogs team. Maybe some potential all-futures on the come-up?
You know it. Hardwood faithful, I introduce to you the 1-2 guard combo of sophomore Asa Holcomb and freshman Ayla Chapin. Young, fun, and straight-up dogs on the hardwood. I mean, look at these video game numbers. Together, they've made almost 153 throws, over 200 rebounds, and insane free throw percentages for literally just being underclassmen. Between these two and the rest of the talent on the Athens squad, these Bulldogs are truly on the come-up. Last year, the girls' team finished 5th in the TVC with a 5-2 record. But with this young talent, the girls absolutely flipped the script early on, too, finishing 2nd in the conference and 10-2 overall.
Talk about underdogs turn to top dogs. What's next for the girls as they head in the playoffs?
Bryce, the girls will take on Jackson in the first round, but winning ain't easy. Jackson finished with an undefeated record in their conference, so they're going to bring some serious firepower to the hardwood.
No kidding, Morgan. Thanks for the great insight. Both Athens squads can make some noise, but so can their crosstown rivals.
Bryce, I couldn't have said it any better, especially with how hyped the Spartan student section gets. The Spartans are pulling up and pulling out wins, and joining us to discuss this week's nerve-wracking matchup is Alexander reporter Maddie Kiefer.
Thanks, Haley. The 3-seeded Alexander Spartans took on the 6-seeded Meigs Marauders in Pomeroy to keep their TVC title hopes alive. The Spartans came out swinging. A fast-paced style of play highlighted their skill set. Kyler DiAgostino recorded 3 fast break slams and only the first. As the game progressed, Alexander started pulling away, with DiAgostino having a huge second quarter and having a major impact on both sides of the floor. The team was in the game as well, with Mason Morris and Dylan Allison coming up with perimeter scores. The Spartans led 32-24 at the half. After a statement first half, Alexander looked to continue their dominance, and they did, continuing to run their offense through DiAgostino, although a nightmare fourth quarter was looming. The Spartans crumbled. Meigs pressed, and Alexander could not get it down the court. The Marauders had a field day with these turnovers, cutting down the lead to just 4 points. Luckily for the Spartans, DiAgostino came in clutch, sinking multiple free throws to win the game 55-49.
Maddie, it is always fun to see these boys show up week in and week out, but when will we get to see the Lady Spartans in action?
They'll play again Wednesday, February 15th, and while the Alexander girls basketball team has had a rough go-around this season, their hopes of upsetting Federal Hocking in the TVC tournament still remain. Even though many have counted them out due to their regular season record and youth, the Lady Spartans have never stopped believing in themselves. The Alexander girls show up to practice hungry to prove all the doubters wrong. Head coach Morgan Grinstead is leading the charge by focusing on the positives of the season rather than the negatives, and also highlighting their bright spots.
Practice, it's hard when your regular season's 1-21, and we're playing a team that we've already lost to. So that's tough, but I think that our bright spot is like, we've been coming last few days working hard and giving me energy.
The Alexander girls have to pull out a huge win on February 15th to keep their season alive.
Maddie, I don't know about you, but I cannot wait to see that one. Thanks for all your great work. You want more TVC basketball? Check out our Facebook and Twitter for game recaps and conference standing updates weekly. Rewatch your favorite plays and shots over and over on our Instagram, and you can even take a peek into the TVC student section on our TikTok. And for a bit of light reading, go to woub.org for written recaps. Ball never stops, and neither does our content.
Now, in case you missed our coverage of the NY Alexander game on Friday, don't worry, we've got it in depth right now. Nelsonville York reporter Trey Lonick is here to give me the recap of a potential game of the year.
Thanks, Bryce. This game did not disappoint. Nelsonville York traveled to the Alley to face Alexander in a TVC Ohio matchup. The Spartans came out hot with Kyler DiAgostino showing off his range with this deep three. Keegan Swope responds on the other end with this spin cycle for the finish. But DiAgostino pulls up from the short corner to knock down this jumper for Alexander. In the second quarter, Leighton Logie sends the defense flying with this pump fake for the score that made this game even. The Spartans, however, would respond with DiAgostino again with the slam, ending the first half with the lead. To start the third quarter, Swope turns defense into offense with this steal and takes it coast to coast for the contested finish. He was huge for NY tonight. Alexander did not go away as Jagger Kane hits this corner three to give the Spartans lead late in the fourth. Logie finds Andrew Connor in the paint to tie this game at 49 apiece. In overtime, Logie and DiAgostino would both hit 2 free throws to force another overtime. To begin double OT, Inman takes it to the hoop to give the Buckeyes the late lead, but the Spartans proved to be much for NY as Zach Barnow seals the deal with this putback to give Alexander the 63-56 lead.
Now, Trey, we're going to make the switch over to the girls.
Coach Truax and his sons have revamped this NY squad, bringing them to the TVC title for the first time in 7 years. Reporter Dylan Westmeyer brings us this story.
After a 15-year hiatus, a familiar face was hired at Nelsonville York High School to be the head coach of the girls basketball team.
With 15 years off, I mean, I had to make a lot of adjustments, and it's went really well. I mean, early part of the season, I really had a lot of doubts that, and maybe even question why did I do this? Why did I come back? And they responded to the challenge.
With Coach Truax at the helm, the Buckeye players truly feel cared for.
It's nice to have a coach that cares about you on and off the court. I mean, if we had something going on at school, he'd help us. It's just really nice to have a coach that really cares about you.
This was more than a team. It is a family with Coach Truax, bringing 2 of his 3 sons onto the coaching staff. With family in the coaching staff, the team became a family.
I think that he preached family from the very beginning, and I feel like the team is pretty much a family. I wouldn't call it a team. We all get along really well, and especially having my dad, it's really nice to have him along the ride with all the accomplishments that all of us have had. And Truax boys, they're hilarious. They're so fun to be around, and I'm glad that he gets to experience this coaching opportunity with his family as well.
The team has bought into the family mindset and used it to drive them through the good and the bad that came throughout the season.
Work together through the whole season, and every win, every loss, every mistake, it's all of us together. Like, we are a family. We're just one big machine together, and that's just what's going to win us. It's like, that's how we're going to win, just being together and being a family.
With the family machine working through the season, Coach Truax has added to his family with 12 new daughters.
And each one of these girls, I mean, I treat them like they're my own. Like, I've got 12 daughters out there, and I would go to war for any of them.
Family on 3.
1, 2, 3, family.
For Hardwood Heroes, I'm Dylan Westmeyer.
The relationships formed off the court show in the game, which can result in better ball movement and team chemistry. A couple things the Lady Vikings are good at. And to tell us the latest, Vinton County reporter Jack Zawinski tells us all about it.
Thanks, Haley. The Lady Vikings took on the Notre Dame Lady Titans in Portsmouth Monday night. The Titans beat Vinton County 64-39. The Vikings looked good on the court. However, the Titans are currently 19-2 and one of the best teams in the state. Vinton County is also undergoing a rebuild at the moment, having lost multiple good players, but look promising in the future with some young talent on the team.
Vinton County's undergoing a rebuild, so what all do they have to look forward to in the future?
Yes, Vinton County has some promising younger players, such as freshman Emma Leeming. Leeming has gotten a good amount of time this season since senior Chloe Habron is out. She stepped up and has started to prove she's someone to keep an eye on in the future.
With a team looking hopeful like that, how'd you end up with a loss there?
I mean, it's hard to do much against Notre Dame's Annie Detweiler, going 7-16 and 1 of 3 from behind the 3, also racking up 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 steals, but Vinton County did what they could.
Now that's a tough way to end the regular season, but the boys had a couple games left in theirs.
Yes, they did. In their first game this week, Wellston made their way to MacArthur for a tense rivalry game. As the game started, Vinton County was looking good, quickly taking the lead with a bucket from Braden Kane and maintaining it for the rest of the game. Jack Davidson followed it up with a layup to put the Vikings up 4-0, and Vinton County senior Cameron Griffin stepped up with this block. The Vikings locked the lead after an assist from Cobra Sharp, leading a layup from Ashton Ullman, ending the first quarter 13-4. The second quarter, Vinton County was in their bag. Both Jack Davidson and Braden Kane put up 3-pointers to stay ahead. The Rockets were looking to blast off, but Garrett Brown let them know MacArthur is a no-fly zone, nailing this 3 over the defender. In the fourth quarter, the Vikings dominated with a covered Cobra Sharp putting up another 3 to end the game and put the Vikings up 69-40 over Wellston. Vinton County clinching the TVC title in the process, and the Vikings celebrated their win by cutting down the nets in MacArthur Friday night. The Vikings winning the TVC Ohio is exciting, and we'll see if they can maintain that energy going into the playoffs.
Thanks, Jack. We'll be watching their journey closely. But let's continue to look at the final conference standings. As we mentioned, Vinton County got the dub, which makes them the 2022-23 TVC Ohio champions. Missing a share of the title by just 1 game is Nelsonville York in second. Finishing in third are the Alexander Spartans, who lost 2 more games than the conference leader, but now the TVC Ohio looks to the playoffs. And the playoffs are sure to be shaken up by our heroes this week.
Yes, they will, and that brings us to our Boys Hero of the Week, commonly referred to as the Gator.
That's right, Bryce. Our hero is none other than Keegan, the Gator, Swope. Swope is the leader of the Buckeye squad, constantly bringing the energy in their game against Alexander. This week, Swope outscored last week's hero, Kyler DiAgostino.
Now that's an impressive feat on the offensive end, but defensively, he was locked down. Swope was in his opponent's faces with his aggressive play style, and he's an extremely reliable player all around.
Looking at his stats, there is no denying that he is everywhere on that court. Bryce, you got to have quick feet, quick hands, and a calm mind, and Swope embodies that.
Offensively, those skills translate too. He's got a nasty crossover and an uncanny ability to finish at contact through the rim. We're going to go from a guy who does it with finesse to a girl who does it with power. Oh yeah, and they share the same name too.
Our second hero and second Keegan Wolf. Wolf may only have scored 13 points, but she also snatched 13 rebounds. Talk about second chance opportunities.
The paint was hers. She might not be the tallest on the court, but you'd be hard-pressed to find someone who works harder for a loose ball than her. She even got involved facilitating some beautiful offensive possessions.
Beautiful ball movement moves my soul. Watching Wolf read defenses and react accordingly is spectacular too. This Marauder had 3 steals.
Haley, I think she just does it all. Nike sponsorship inbound ? She might not be the most well-known name, but pretty soon she's going to be a household one. It's another fantastic week of basketball, but unfortunately, that's all we got for you today.
Thank you for joining us, but this isn't goodbye because you can find TVC content all week on our socials, on our Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Anything you want, we got it. And you just got to stay tuned because we always have really great content coming out on all of those platforms, and we get some really cool student section stuff in there too.
Also got playoffs this week, so we're going to have all the breakdown of that stuff too. Really excited for that.
Me too. But until next time, we're reminding you to be
heroic.